Charles Jones from Central Florida Preps here, and I'm with Father Lopez Green Wave head coach Mark Gabbard. Thank you for having to sit down with me this evening, Coach. Let's jump right into it,
Yes,
Coach.
Sir.
Guys finished 6-4. Now I know you came. This team was winless the year before. Quite the turnaround, Coach. When you first took over this program, what was your vision, and how close did the season come to that picture?
Taking over the program, I was here as an OC last year, came in right before spring ball the year before from Arizona. I got hired on, moved out here, got here maybe a week before spring ball started. Went through an 0-9 season last year, which was very difficult. Really young team. We were very sophomore heavy. We had one senior last year. Then unfortunately when Coach Nasser had to step aside for health reasons, it was a bittersweet moment for me because Matt was really passionate about the program. He was an alumni, and I don't think I've ever met anybody who has a heart for the kids like Matt did. So when he had to step aside for the health issues, it was heartbreaking. But at the same time, I was excited for an opportunity because I moved across the country here to coach football. I was a contractor back home and felt it was time to get back into my purpose. And when God provided this opportunity, I came here to coach football. And so again, it's a bittersweet moment. With that being said, we were 0-9. There were some things culturally that I just wanted to do that I've always believed in. I felt like we were able to establish that. The biggest difference for us, I believe, is we really established a culture of expectations, of what we wanted to do, where we want to go. I laid down a very specific vision of I want to become a local powerhouse that gets to national prominence, however long that takes. The program that I coached in back home, that my son came from, that he played at, we're a nationally recognized program, and that's what I want to do here. And I feel like that can happen. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of work. I felt like we got a little bit further this year than I anticipated with that goal. I did anticipate we were going to win some ball games, be a lot more competitive. Going 6-4, excited for the kids with that, simply because there's 4 or 5 teams in there that whooped up on us last year that we were able to pull victories against. So that's a step in the positive direction. Getting into the playoffs, another step in the right direction, and now we'll just see how that plays out.
Okay, and Coach, like we just said, you inherited a group that hadn't, that went winless the year before. What was the first step in changing the mindset?
First step in changing the mindset was developing some very specific expectations with commitment and vision. And like I said, I created a vision, and it's a written out statement. I have an 8-page handbook that's very detailed, very specific, from how we dress to how we show up to how we behave to commitment expectations in the summer, specific commitment expectations for the spring, and then those expectations for the fall. And that was clearly outlined, and that's something that every parent was told in person. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is the expectations. If that doesn't work for you, I understand. You got to find somewhere else to go if that doesn't work. Because if we're going to do this, one, it's a ministry for us. These kids are young, so God has given them the game of football right now to use as a ministry to other people with how we behave, how we compete, stuff along those lines. So we laid those expectations out in a meeting, and then that handbook was given to parents to look at and to sign. And every kid that has any interest in our program has to go through that handbook. So I felt like just sitting down and saying, hey, this is what it's going to take to be a part of what we're doing. And if that doesn't work, we understand the beauty of Florida is you can transfer and there's no penalties. So if that doesn't work for you, you can find somewhere else. And I feel like probably the biggest thing I was blown away by was how much buy-in we got across the board. I didn't quite expect that. I thought there'd be a lot more pushback, but I feel like the players and the parents and the school was kind of ready for that commitment.
Okay, I certainly understand that, Coach. And what did you focus on early to get your athletes believing that they can compete at that level where you're winning ball games week in and week out?
I'd probably say we attacked the simple concept of everybody you're going to play is the same age as you. So this isn't college football where you're 18, 17 years old, you're going against 22, 23-year-olds sometimes. Look, regardless of the past here, just simple vision and belief is something that has to take precedent in order to change the culture here of expecting to win. And we had a very distinct moment at our team camp. So we took our entire team to Stetson University late July, before the season started. We spent 3 days there working our tail off, but also a lot of spiritual development, a lot of goal setting, and also just a lot of heart-to-heart conversations of expectations. And this is what we want to do, and here's where we're going to go. And we had 3 days of some of the most intense practices I have ever been a part of anywhere that I've been. And there's something that clicked in the boys during that time, and the coaches for that matter, where we went from establishing a culture as the goal to where literally our last conversation was, nope, our goals have now changed. We're going to the playoffs. And I just felt that there was a specific moment at that camp where the kids went, hey, this is different, and we can be different. So let's go work different. Let's be different.
Okay, and Coach, from the outside, people see 6-4. They see the big turnaround, but from within the program, what kind of or what part of the growth are you most proud of?
I was most proud of the commitment level because, like I said, Charles, coming in, you read through that handbook. It's demanding. It's a lot of time, a lot of expectations. Film on Saturday, and if you miss practice, you don't get to dress for a half. Miss 2 practices, you don't get to dress for a game. There's obviously some exceptions in there for illnesses and stuff like that. But when I came in and laid down that high level of expectations of what we're going to do, and it's non-negotiable, I expected a lot more pushback. I expected a lot of people to kind of skirt it, saying, yeah, right. And we had a few moments where some kids tested some boundaries. But when we jumped on it and showed them that we were serious, Charles, the buy-in from the parents and the administration was unbelievable. I think that's what I've been the most surprised by.
Okay, and Coach, speaking of that handbook that you have, how can I say, an ace in the hole, so to speak, where let's say if a kid doesn't adhere to something in that handbook, or if a parent has something to say, hey, you signed it, it's right here in black and white. Because some programs, not every program has something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely ace in the hole. It's something I learned a long time ago. I mean, I've coached college baseball. I've been a head varsity baseball coach for 6 years. I've been a high school athletic director for 5 years. High school dean of discipline at one point. Been in the contract industry. So I just had like a wide range of experience that I brought to the table. And I learned a long time ago that the more that you can communicate up front of how this is going to work, when things arise, people go, oh yeah, he talked about that. So I feel that has curbed a lot of issues, because there's been so many situations this year where, hey, go take a look at that handbook. Remember what we talked about. And they go, okay, yeah, you're right. And so I just feel like that ace in the hole has been less drama and more of, okay, he talked about it, this is what we're about into. Or when there has been an issue or two here and there, other parents who might have been around last year been able to help those people or those kids and be like, hey, this is just the way it's going to be here. So, but that ace in the hole, again, goes back to, hey, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, the support from the administration is there on it. I gave a copy to the principal, made sure she signed off on it before I introduced it. And so now once it's introduced, it's backed by everybody. And that ace in the hole has really curbed a lot of potential issues that allows us just to focus on coach football.
Oh, yes, that definitely, because I talked to some coaches from programs where they didn't have that in place, and they kind of, when issues came up, they were doing things on the fly. The parents and kids are saying, oh, well, we didn't know, and the coach didn't have that to say, well, you signed this.
Yeah, and those things are always fluid, because as soon as you think you got it all figured out, another situation arises and stuff like that. And sometimes you got to change your policies too. Sometimes you got to look at that book when things arise and go, okay, things have changed a little bit, or I might be off on this one. And so if you're going to have those expectations of parents and kids, you also got to be able to look at your own policies sometimes, and those have to be fluid. Now, obviously, there's principles and non-negotiables, but sometimes you got to look at something and go, okay, maybe I'm off on that one.
Okay. And also, how did your staff help you turn around or contribute to the quick turnaround as well?
That was the number one thing we went after. Even after last season ended, before Coach Nasser stepped down, he came into my office, said, hey, let's talk about the staff. I said, all honesty, the exception of 2 people got to go. We have to have better assistant coaches. We got to have guys who can contribute, guys who are film junkies. And so Coach Nasser started to get to work on that right away. And then ultimately, once he stepped down for the health reasons, I was able to also continue that of bringing in new staff. And I feel like we have found just a quality group of guys. Our defensive coordinator, Alan Parker. I don't meet a lot of people that are as much of a film junkie as I am. That guy's a film junkie. And he'll have stuff broken down before I can even sniff it to where I feel like I'm behind. And that's a blessing as a head coach because that guy is on top of it. And then we brought in Juwan Ross, who was an alumni, went on and played Division I at Old Dominion, East Tennessee State. He kind of fell in our lap. Came back into town. At one point, he contacted us late spring, and that guy has done wonders with our young defensive line. And then Coach Hill, who's been in the program for a while, another alumni, works with our DBs. Coach Harrison, my son Caden, took over our offensive line. He's here for 1 year, and that's been a blessing. So it just feels like God provided the right people at the right time. And to be honest with you, without those guys, the policies are irrelevant. The vision's irrelevant. Those are the guys who have really bought in to what we're trying to accomplish here. Those are the guys who've taken kind of the vision and ran with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I'm familiar with Brandon Hill, well, Dean Hill. He used to be the dean at St. Paul's,
yes.
And that's where Kim and, my
Yes.
son, they went to that school. My
Yes.
son went there K through 8. He's at Atlantic now, but yeah, that's how I know Dean Hill. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he was probably my first friend, like a real friend that I hung out with outside of football and school and stuff like that when I moved to Florida. And he's a great guy. And then probably a huge hire for us, especially on the offensive side, was Frank Eberhardt. Frank Eberhardt's kind of a local legend, I've come to learn. I have referees coming up on the sideline saying, hey, the fact that you got Frank out here coaching football tells me everything I need to know about you. And it's like, wow, like Frank's a big name around here, but
yes,
he's
sir.
done a fantastic job.
Okay, Coach, what kind of identity do you want this team to have or wanted this team to have, and how did it show up throughout the season?
Identity-wise, overall identity-wise is commitment, detail, and toughness. And everybody's going to say commitment. I get it. You got to be committed. Work different is a policy that I brought in. I'm pretty active on Twitter. You have to be these days as a high school coach to help your kids with recruiting and just kind of keeping in tune with what's going on in the high school football world. So being very active on Twitter over the last, and I can't stand social media, but I had to have a Twitter page when I got back into coaching 4 or 5 years ago, and I quickly learned that it's important. But one thing that I kept noticing is, can't cheat the grind. I'm out here working every day, and I got this coach, and I just did this, I did that. And I feel like 90% of the kids that are out there can say with honesty that they work hard. And everybody's going to tell you how hard they work. But the reality is if you're not working with detail and specific intentions, and every rep that you take, you're not making adjustments and you're not evaluating those things, you're just working. And you're getting worse, you're not getting better. So I've always felt like everybody can say, yeah, I work hard. Great. Yes, you do. You're right. You're not wrong. You work hard. But I'm also watching you work hard and get worse. I'm also watching you work hard and get slower. I'm watching you work hard and your routes are awful. So you're working really hard and going backwards. So yeah, you're working hard. So for us, I brought in, and we plastered it everywhere. So if you go out on our practice field, there's a big sign that says work different. As you leave our locker room, there's a big vinyl sign on the wall that says work different. Our pregame compressions say work different. And the whole concept behind that is everybody's going to work hard. You got to work different. Meaning every rep has to be detailed. Every rep has to have an evaluation behind it, whether it's a self-evaluation or a coach. And every rep has to have an adjustment. Because if you're doing that, now you're getting better. Working hard doesn't make you better. working different with that hard work ethic, that's where you get better.
Coach, you just got to preach to the choir, the football choir. I mean, when it comes to that, first of all, when you're talking about social media, what kills me in this is that there are programs where, they don't even have an active social media account. And my thing is, okay, you want this kid to come out 2-a-day practices, whatever practices you're having, work hard, and come on, at least help them with recruiting. Some of these families, they will plan their family vacation around their son's football. Mm-hmm. And if they're willing to do that and make a sacrifice, I believe the coaches should, or at least have somebody on staff who is willing to do that. And then also, when it comes to, oh my goodness, the working hard. And you hit it on the head. You're working, but you're not getting better. You got some of these guys, I know some of them mean well, and some of them probably are good trainers, but sometimes I see stuff like, come on, man, that's not even a football-related drill. Why are you even doing that?
Yeah, and like you said, God bless these kids because they're trying, but just with no direction and no purposeful repetition, again, with goals and detail, unfortunately, man, you're out there just spinning your wheels. You might as well just stay at home. But no, you're right, and I agree with you 100%, is we're going to ask this commitment of these kids, what are we doing to help them understand if they do have a desire to play at the next level, any level, D3, JUCO, whatever that is, D1, what are you doing to help them? So one thing that we did, as soon as I got the job, I sat down for 2 days straight, took 2 days off work, sat down for 2 days straight, and I put together a 10-page detailed PowerPoint of how to use X for recruiting. And one of my best friends back home that I coached with at Centennial High School back in Peoria, Arizona, Tim Teeley, he's the recruiting coordinator there. He started out as a dad at the top of the bleachers. Then he migrated to the bottom of the bleachers. Then he was out on the field, and they asked him to come start coaching at lower levels. He's now the head assistant at Centennial after all these years, but he's in charge of all their recruiting. He became one of my best friends, and he's the guy that helped my son get recruited. And I learned a lot from Tim. And one thing I learned from Tim is you got to promote these kids because there's so many colleges out there where there's opportunities, and you got to show them that world. Especially come from Arizona where there's only 4 or 5 colleges that have football programs. You got to show them that there's other opportunities. So I put together that PowerPoint. And then before we ever started spring ball, I had a Saturday seminar that was completely voluntary for kids to come in with their parents. And I went through that PowerPoint trying to teach them, here's how you can use X to your advantage. And the kids that came, I shared that with them. And what's kind of cool about how we're changing the culture here was, I think there was 5 kids at that first meeting. And now I got kids, as the last couple weeks, and coach, how do I get Twitter started? I know it's important. This and that, so we're going to have more seminars with those parents to help those kids get set up and teach them how to promote themselves.
Oh, that's awesome stuff, Coach. That is awesome stuff. And also, Coach, what do you want this year's team to take away from this great season that you're having?
Man, I just want them to be proud of what they accomplished, Charles, because, like I said, man, I'm kind of I'm a big guy, and I can bark loud. But man, at the core of me, man, I'm kind of just a big softy, especially when it comes to these kids. And because I mean, when I demand so much out of them, and we're just so relentless from spring all the way till, through the playoffs, man, I just want these kids to be proud of what they accomplished. Because one of our primary principles in this program is football is practice for life. That's all it is. I mean, dead honesty, how many kids outside your nationally renowned programs, how many are going on to play at the next level? We all know the research. It's a minimal percentage, right? So why did I leave the situation I had in Arizona where I had a contractor salary, I had everything I wanted, but yet I wasn't living in my purpose? So why do you leave that and why do you come do this? And the point being is you do it because you want to teach these kids football is what you've been given first and foremost to worship our God. Secondly, it's practice for life. So what are we teaching these kids day in and day out to where they're going to take these life lessons? Because I'm going to tell you right now, this goes back to my college baseball days, high school baseball days, high school football days. everywhere I've been, Southern California, Arizona to here, every single coach you talk to is going to tell you the same lie. We're here to teach these kids life lessons. Every one of them is going to say the same thing. I've been at national conferences, Glazier clinics. Every coach will tell you the same thing. We're here to teach these kids life lessons. I'm also here to tell you about 25% of them actually do it. And I'm not saying that there's a large contingent of people that aren't good people. They are good people, but what they're saying doesn't match up to how they're running their program. Okay, and 25% may be a little bit low, but kind of the point being is I've run into more people that have said that, and when I start looking at their program or I'm around their program, I'm going, that's all a line of garbage. You're just spitting stuff out. So it's got to be real. You know, this is practice for life. We're teaching these kids adversity. We're teaching them how to commit. We're teaching them how to deal with hardship and just crazy things that come about. And we've been given this game to be able to teach them how to do that. And what I've always told people, like when I was an AD, or when I would give speeches back before on future freshman nights when they're trying to figure out where they want to send their kid, is I always told parents, I get those parents that say, well, we'll see what he wants to do. Ultimately, it's up to him where he wants to go. And I go, that's kind of crazy. And they'd be like, excuse me? Like offended. I'm like, well, let's look at a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, and every decision they're going to make right now is based on emotion and comfort. And you're going to leave where they go to high school and play ball solely up to them? At what point do you step in and be the parent and say, now I know what's best for your future? And here's the point I'm getting to is when they get to the high school level, Charles, they're spending more time with us than they are at your dinner table at home with you. And during those months, especially when fall rolls around, August through November, hopefully in December, yeah, they're spending more time with me and my coaches or their coaches than they are at home with you. So who are you choosing? What research are you doing? What standards are you trying to make your decision based off of, where you're going to send your kid to be influenced by those men more than they're influenced by you at your home? And I've seen it go both ways. I have family members that ended up in the wrong places and were influenced by the wrong coaches and struggled with awful things their entire life, including my brother. Yeah? But I've also seen the flip side, where I sent my son to play. It was based upon the coaches and the quality of those men and their faith in Christ. Best decision I ever made, because when he started to have struggles his junior year, guess who stepped in and helped me? His coaches. And guess who's got a fantastic kid right now? I do. And it wasn't because I was a great dad. It's because he was around the right people at the right time when he was the most toughest situations where he could be influenced, and that was his coaches.
Oh man, Coach, who's chopping an onion by here?
Sorry, man. I get passionate, man. I get going. So
no, it's cool, but I love it. No, but you're right. Football does teach life lessons, and I'm glad I've had good coaches in my life too. Back when I did play, I used to think, 11th grader, hey, why does it matter where I put my cleats in this locker?
Yeah.
And when I go back and see Coach, thank you for telling me that. Thank you. I used to think that was like you were tripping, but no, you were really prepping us for how it goes in life. And well, if you let this happen, if you haven't, say adversities as far as something with studying, are you gonna let that whoop you? Oh man, you'll let a marriage whoop you. Man, I'm glad I had some great coaches, and not everybody has that, as you said, because there's some programs where. Yeah. Those coaches, no disrespect to those coaches, but it is what it is. They care more about the W's and the L's than, setting that kid up to, become a great person in life.
But you know what I've learned with that, Charles? And you're onto something there is, like I said, I did a lot of homework where I was going to send my son. Because I was an AD before. I'd been around the block, so I knew what to look for. He ended up being in a program that was a big-time program with wins and losses in the state of Arizona, but the number one primary reason he went there was, one, there was a lot of diversity at that school, anywhere from African-American to Hispanic to white to Asian, foreign exchange students, okay? And the second reason he went there was because of the quality of men that was in charge of that program, okay? And what I've learned is, typically when you have the high quality of men and you match that with a high quality knowledge and passion for football, the wins and championships kind of tend to come with it at some point.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Now, Coach, what is the next step for this program? You've done the turnaround now. So, it's not to the point where people, Father Lopez. Now it's like, hey, they're 6-4. They're going to the playoffs. What's the next step now?
The next step is scheduling. We got to start facing some tougher opponents. Like I said, I feel like we established a good foundation. But we got to face some good, tough opponents, some bigger schools. I'm not satisfied with being a 480 student school that's just going to go play a bunch of other 300, 480 student schools. I want to play good schools. I want to play bigger schools. And of course, you got to be careful with that, and you got to kind of be strategic with that. But next year, we've already stripped 3 or 4 teams off our schedule. We're looking to schedule a few tougher teams, some bigger teams. Especially in Florida, they have a high emphasis on strength of schedule. So we're learning that right now with who we're projected to pick up in the first round. I don't want to be in a situation where we're just playing an average 2-week schedule every year, and the wins look pretty, but you get in the playoffs and you're just getting matched up against the 1 or 2 seed every year, and then you're first round and out every year. So I really want to build that from here. We got to get some more athletes in. Our numbers were solid this year. We floated right around 44, 45. The next goal is to get those numbers up around 50 to 55 and implement a JV program so those younger kids can get reps. And I think as you start to do that, again, just the culture of it, what you're trying to establish, the level of professionalism you're trying to establish with the program, everything else will kind of start to handle itself.
Okay, and speaking of scheduling, how do you kind of navigate the scheduling thing? Because I've seen it go different ways where, okay, well, we're going to schedule 4 toughies and, you might go in the playoffs limping at 5-4 because you had some injuries. Then I've seen the guys that will schedule homecoming opponent 7 or 8 times, and we're 10-0 and lose 50 to 27 in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. No, not doing that. I'm not scheduling to rack up my own personal win column so we can, like you said, have 9, 10 wins a year, 7, 8, 9, 10 wins a year. And you go first round, like you said, you're getting it handed to you 45-0 in the first round every year. That's not where we're going. Like I said, where we came from, we were playing a national schedule, and ultimately that's where I want to get to with this program. I know it's going to take time. It's not just going to happen. But that's the ultimate goal. I want to get to we are playing. What's great about here in 1A is you've got big time programs in this state in 1A. And a lot of people want to run from that. And I'm going, no, that's where I want to get to. Like for me, I look at Chaminade Madonna, I'm like, man, those guys are good. I want to play those guys at some point. I want to compete with those guys. Like otherwise, like, what are we doing it for? Like if we're just going to get into it just to schedule light, and I get it. But I don't know, man. That's just kind of how I was raised. I was raised to want to compete. I've been around programs that compete. So ultimately for me, that's where I want to go at some point. However long that's going to take, I don't know. But that's the vision. I want to go compete against those big schools. And what's beautiful about Florida, man, the athletes out here is unbelievable at every level. And so even at the 1A level out here, there are some big-time programs with some big-time athletes that just make it so much fun. And that's what I want to compete against, as opposed to trying to schedule too light and make myself feel good that we got 8 wins a year.
Oh, that's awesome. You said Chaminade Madonna. Now, there's some teams that are 4A and 5A that wouldn't play them. The fact that you have that in mind, I like your moxie, Coach. I like that.
Is it a long shot, big dream? Yep, absolutely. And that's why I want to pursue it. Because it is a long shot, and those dudes are good, and they're a national power, and that's where we want to go.
Oh,
so
okay.
Let's try to go there. And what that does is it sets up a challenge every single year. It basically sets me up to a situation where if that's where we want to go, there's no days off. There's no 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off. Season ends. What are we now doing to prepare to try to take that next step forward to where at some point eventually we can try to compete with those guys?
Oh, that's awesome to hear, Coach. And it's been a pleasure sitting with you. Oh man, you're that dude, Coach. And you had a special season. Still not over yet. You got playoffs going around or starting next week. Remarkable turnaround with that, Coach. I mean, it was, this program hasn't been to the playoffs in 2022. I believe in 23 they won 2 games, and then last year none. What's your message to your team and the community after a year like this?
Compete. Don't be satisfied. And I think that's probably our biggest challenge right now is you have a little bit of success. I mean, there were a couple parents at the beginning of the year, and I said, our parents are fantastic. There's a couple parents I heard, I'm like, man, I just want my kid to win 1 game this year. And in my mind, I'm like, 1? Like, man, if we win 1 game this year, I'm not doing my job. But the point being is that was kind of some of the expectations. God bless them. They just didn't know. They didn't know better. They haven't had a ton of success here in a long time. And so, for me, the message I want to send is 6-4. A lot of people are really happy with it. I'm getting a lot of texts, and for people I don't even know, people coming up to me at the quarterback's club, great turnaround. They're going to be talking about this turnaround for years. And I'm like, I don't understand why, because there's 2 games that we completely left on the table. 6-4 is a letdown. We should have been 8-2, And so that's kind of where my mind goes. And I think that's just the coach in me, that competitor in me, and how I was raised and people I grew up around. But I think kind of the message is, great season, man. Definitely a lot to be proud of, especially for these seniors. I'm so happy for them. However, it's not where we want to be. Like, we want to be deep in the playoffs every year. And probably the last thing I can leave you with on that, Charles, would be I sent out a note when I knew that we were going to the playoffs. I sent out a note on our team forum. Hey, FYI, as we go through the playoffs, we have practice on Thanksgiving morning. So don't get too far ahead of your schedule now with scheduling vacations and stuff like that and this and that, because that's what we were used to. Like, that's just what you do, and that's a great morning. That's the best morning of the year. When you're practicing on Thanksgiving morning, you're having a great season. Again, I don't know how realistic that is this year. However, that's the expectation. And I just remember parents saying, oh man, I got a cruise schedule, I got this scheduled. And so changing that expectation of culture after this year of saying, hey, don't plan anything until state championships are over. Because that's where we're trying to go every year, and we need to continue to take steps towards that. And you need to plan accordingly.
Oh, thanks, Coach, for your time. It's been great chatting with you. Great stuff. And I look forward to seeing what you guys do, and best of luck to you in your future endeavors. I believe they got the right man for the job, and I believe the Green Wave, they're going to start going some places.
Man, I appreciate you, Charles. Central Florida Preps, we love you. We thank you. The way that you guys cover everybody at every level is just fantastic, and you're doing it for the kids, and that's what matters.
Oh, appreciate the kind words, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.